I needed water. This is like the third time I've tried to record this voiceover because describing how to build this son of a bitch. Hey guys, it's Ashen from Ashen Props, and today we're going to be building Alva the Wayfarers helmet from Dark Souls 2. He is in Dark Souls 3, his armor's in Dark Souls 3. I just think they really mucked up his design for the armor in Dark Souls 3, but that's a political discussion that I'm not getting into today. I cannot express how much I adore this character. It's my favorite character in the Souls series, hence I've got literally his skirt design tattooed on me. I also want to shout out my buddy Ben from Kwik-Seal Props. He actually, the very original build of this that I had done a year ago, he taught me how to use Blender to extract game files and make a Pepakura template. So big thanks to my buddy Ben. You should go check him out. He's on Instagram at Kwik-Seal Props. Am I forgetting anything else before I go into the video for the build? I'm not. Yes, I am. You'll also notice, for the keen observer, in the game there are leather straps here and one on top. We're not going to cover that in this video because it's easier to do that when you paint. So if you're noticing that don't have leather straps here and here, that's coming in the painting video. Go check out the website, link in the description, where you can download the template 100% for free. So go grab the template, come back here. Now, with all that out of the way, here comes my third attempt at trying to voice this over and teach you guys how to make Alva the Wayfarers helmet from Dark Souls 2, because his design sucked in 3. I'm gonna have a sip of water first.
With your pinky out.
I'm not savage, pinky out. For this build, I found it easier to, I found it easiest to break this down into all of its separate parts and then construct at the end or close to the end. And what I mean by that is we're going to start with our faceplate. We're going to move on to our forehead, our center, our back, our neck guard, and then finally the bill. Now for most of the build, it's going to be 6mm HD foam. There's a few 2mm details here and there, but for the majority of this build, you're going to want some 6mm HD foam. As well, just grab a roll of 2 while you're there. For most of the build, unless stated otherwise, we're going to be using barge contact cement. I just find it a lot easier than most glues to deal with. Creates very little mess, as you can see. I feel a yawn coming. Oh, that was a burp. Whew, surprise. For the faceplate, that's what we're going to start with, is this glorious thing, the most iconic, identifiable piece of the Alva armor. Markedly, or whatever. You're gonna take your template and you're going to be laying it out over some 6mm HD foam. You'll notice you only have 1/2 of the template. That's because this build is symmetrical, so what you're gonna do for most of the pieces is trace one side, flip it, and trace it again. And that is going to go for most of the helmet build unless the template says otherwise. So once you've flipped and traced your faceplate parts, there are 2 pieces that have the word middle. It is these 2. And what I mean by that is once you've traced this piece, you're going to hold it in place here, flip it, and trace it again so you have 1 piece. You also have this piece, same principle, you're going to trace, flip it while the center is in the same place, and trace to create 1 piece. The rest of it is going to be done in halves. You'll see on some edges it says 45 on it, or an arrow. And all that means is you're going to be cutting inward at a 45-degree angle, or close to it, doesn't have to be exact. And I do have clips of it, how to cut at that 45-degree angle. And you're going to follow that rule for the entire template. When you're looking at the template, if it has an arrow or the word 45, you're going to be cutting at an angle. Once you've cut everything out on the template, we're going to cut it out of foam. And once you cut it out of foam, we're sticking paper, foam, we're gonna get into the assembly. For the assembly, the only rule I'm gonna have, the clips are gonna be playing in the background, except for right here, you'll notice assembling the faceplate in the clips. I've done this backwards to how I'm gonna tell you. It is a lot easier if you attach the faceplate like this, and then meet it in the middle. You're going to go top, bottom, attach, and then we're gonna meet it in the middle. Whew, that felt so much better than the first time I tried to record that. I'm not savage. Liar! So, your main faceplate structure is assembled, and it should look something like this one. Once that is assembled, we're going to move on to what I'm going to call the beard piece, and that is this lower piece of trim-ish something. And you'll notice on the template, once you've traced it out on foam, go ahead and mark where I've marked outward 45-degree angle. What do I mean by outward 45-degree angle? If this is a piece of foam and it says 45-degree angle, you're gonna stab inward and follow the paper. This time, for an outward angle, you're going to stab this way and cut and follow the paper. So once you have cut your beard piece, you can go ahead and attach it now if you want. It's simply going to attach at the bottom of the faceplate here. Once again, when we glue, we're going to focus on starting at the outside or the top of the foam piece and go inside. If you do inside coming out, it's going to give you a overhang, which we don't want. So for the entirety of this build, when you're going to be gluing things, you're going to start at the top and roll inside. Again, the beard piece doesn't come all the way over to the end. It stops right before the hinge piece. All right, so once you've got your beard on, we're gonna go to this eyebrow piece. This eyebrow piece is not going to be cut like as one piece as this one was. This one's going to be cut, and one side is going to be cut inward at an angle, the other side is going to be cut flat at this joining piece. The bottom of it is going to be cut at an outward 45-degree angle. You're going to attach it following the same principles to the top of the faceplate. And when that's done, you should have something looking kind of like this. Now before we go further, you're going to want to cut off or Dremel off the overhangs on the inside of the faceplate. You'll notice when you look, this eyebrow piece and the beard piece have left this weird overhang. You're going to take your Dremel tool to that and just Dremel it flat. And we're going to Dremel it because we're making room for our support piece, and that would be this little triangle. Once you've Dremeled the inside of your faceplate flat, we're going to take our support triangle and simply put it at the joint between where the beard is and the faceplate is. So on that seam, that's where that triangle is going to go. And that's just going to make sure this stays at this really nice crisp angle. Next, we've got this like cover piece. This essentially is just blocking light from entering. It puts a cool effect when you wear it, makes your face pretty much darkened out. Is this cap piece here, and we're going to follow the same thing that we did with the beard. You're going to trace, flip trace to create one piece with the outside edge is going to be cut at an inward 45-degree angle. Once you've got that cut out and prepped everything with your barge contact cement, you'll just attach it there. On the faceplate, we've got this little rectangle piece that's going to be right there. And the rectangle piece couldn't be easier. It's just a rectangle cut out of 6mm HD foam, and then it's going to simply attach to the end of the faceplate right there. And finally is this hinge. The hinge in the clips is going to be built a little bit differently than how I'm describing it. The easiest way to do this is to cut a piece of little wooden dowel, it's actually a kebab stick I found at the grocery store. Cut it to the height of this, and simply take some 10mm foam dowels, cut them in half, and attach them at the bottom, the top, and in the middle. You can do varying sizes. You just make it yours. So that is your entire faceplate. What you're gonna do for right now is put that aside. Next is your forehead piece. It will be labeled. You'll notice on the final build there are 10 individual pieces here rather than just 5. That is because for the rest of the main structure of the helmet, you're going to be flipping and tracing, again because this is symmetrical. So once you have traced everything out on your foam, remember to trace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flip it over, and trace again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're ready to start cutting out. But before you start cutting out, I would like to just thoroughly explain one more time how we're going to be cutting the angles. You'll see on this number 2 piece, I've drawn an arrow at the outer curve, and that is where you're going to be cutting inward at an angle. This other side should be cut flat. So once you've done that, go ahead and cut them out of your 6mm HD foam. And then the second most important part of this entire build is to heat form each individual piece. This is where a lot of the length of this build is gonna play into, because you have to individually heat, for instance, this piece, and I know I have clips of it, heat the piece, and then once it's heated slightly, don't hold it over there for too long because then you'll burn it, as you're gonna take it and just scrunch it into a crescent. So every piece must be formed into a little crescent, and that's gonna give that this iconic, not fluted, but you know what I mean. So again, every piece for the main structure of the helmet on the forehead, the middle, and the back must be cut out with all the angles intact and then heated. So once you've heated everything, you're ready to start gluing. So go ahead and prep your edges with your barge contact cement, and we're going to do this in a build pattern. And what I mean by that is we are going to attach it in a certain order that I found the easiest to do. So you're going to take your pieces, you're going to start with 1, 2, and 3, attach those pieces first. So 1, 2, and 3, these are going to go together. Then you're going to take your 2 5s, so your 5, flip, and 5, attach your 2 5s. And then you have your 5 and 4. And simply just attach the 4s to the 5s. After that, we're going to attach that to both sets of 1, 2s, and 3s. There's a lot of numbers in this. Again, the build pattern should be 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 4, 4, attach everything together. The reason I do it this way is to make sure I have plenty of hand room to make sure it's seamless. Again, you should be attaching with the top and rolling to the bottom to make sure you're not having any overhangs or any ugly seams. It's just been easier for me that way, just makes it easier. Once you've got the main forehead piece put together, we're going to follow what we did with the faceplate, just scoot it over to the side, and then we're going on to the centerpiece. So this is the centerpiece. You'll notice the centerpiece template that you have is slightly different than the ones you're seeing in the clips. I have gone ahead and made it easier for you guys, because I'm a sadist, it was tough on me. So I made it easier for you guys, just trim some of the pieces up. And we're going to follow exactly what we did with the forehead, where we're going to trace it out on our 6mm HD foam, cut it out on our 6mm HD foam with the outer curve, cut at an inward 45-degree angle. We're gonna heat and curl every piece and set it to the side. Once everything's curled, and we're ready to glue it, and we're going to follow the same build pattern we did with the forehead. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, then the 4s on the 5s, then the 1, 2s, and 3s on the 4s. And that is going to create this shape for the centerpiece. And so that should be your faceplate, your forehead, and your centerpiece all built and cut out. Is this making any sense, wife? Ryan, is this you can't talk to me. So next we're going to do the backside. The backside pretty much follows the same structure as the front and the top. Tracing everything on 6mm HD foam, flipping and tracing it again, so we have 10 total pieces. The outside curves are going to be cut at an inward 45-degree angle, and we're going to follow the same pecking order when it comes to how we're gluing it together. So once your edges are prepped with glue, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 4s on the 5s, the 1, 2, 3s on the 4s. It's build is repetitive, and I built it 1, 2, 3 times in the span of like what? A week. Once you got the back, the forehead, and the center built, we're gonna do some Dremel cleanup work, and what I mean by that is we're going to go over the edge here. You'll notice as you're attaching it, or as you were building it, you had some overhangs and some ugly edges. That's because when you cut at an angle and try to glue it together, it's not gonna meet evenly trying to create a flat surface. So we're simply gonna go over the edge with our Dremel to make everything flush and flat. Like you see here, there's no overhangs, there's no seams. You're just gonna do a little bit of Dremel cleanup work. After you've cleaned everything up with your Dremel, we're going to get into the attaching portion. And to attach this, we're going to once again be using barge contact cement. We're going to take our centerpiece and attach our forehead. And to attach it, we're only going to glue the surface area that we're going to need. So within like a 1/2 inch on the centerpiece and a 1/2 inch on the forehead piece is where you're going to apply your glue, and you're simply going to stick it together until it lines up about there. And once you've got that and you're comfortable with it, it will take some finagling. If you're not entirely happy, just kind of peel it, rework it a little bit. You'll notice that most of the peaks on here meet up with the center except for one. That should how it That's how it should be. It's with most of the peaks meeting except for one. It should be slightly off on number 1. And then we're going to attach the back. We're going to follow the same basic principles. Glue within a 1/2 inch on the center and then a 1/2 inch on the back, and then attach it. It should follow the same principles where all the peaks meet, and should meet about there on number 1. There should be a gap. The gap should be about the same width as your hinge. So once you've got the back, the center, and the forehead attached, that is your main helmet structure. What I found it easiest to do at this point is to leave it on a head cast. If you've got a head cast, if you don't, leave it on a small ball, just to help create the helmet form. Otherwise, it just looks kind of funky. But once it's all attached, it should look something like this. There's a clip in there, I think, of me showing it off. So next is the bill. We're gonna build the bill, which is this little back neck guard. I'm calling it a bill. It is cut into 2 pieces. Once again, your template is going to be slightly different than the one seen in the video, but you're gonna follow the same pattern. There is a flat piece that looks like this, and then there's a trim piece that goes on top of it like this. One side of the bill is cut at an inward 45-degree angle. You're gonna join that together, and then you're going to trace this layered trim piece onto some 2mm HD foam and simply glue that to the main structure of the bill, and do a little bit of Dremel cleanup work to make sure your edges are flush. After that, the final part, before we can attach the bill, is we're going to flip our helmet over, like so, and we're going to Dremel an angle at the edge of the back piece. The reason we didn't cut an angle is because it would not line up. So once you've got everything assembled, you're going to come in with a Dremel and Dremel the back side of the helmet where the bill goes at a 45-degree angle. After that, you simply attach the bill to that 45 with using the same principles. The bill should stop where the final piece, or the first piece of the back shell stops. Once that's on there, you're good to go, and we're moving on to the final piece of the build. Can't believe we're at this piece so far. Can you hear my crunching? It's ice, which is frozen water. Next is the neck. So the neck guard is this lovely little piece down here. The neck guard is pretty simple. Every piece is traced out. This time nothing is in halves, except for this. The first piece on the neck should be done as if it were the beard on the faceplate. You're going to trace it, keep the center in the same place, flip and trace to create one whole piece. And on this first piece, the bottom edge should be traced and then cut at an inward 45-degree angle. That's the only complex part on the neck. Once the rest of your neck pieces are traced out, go ahead and cut them at a 6mm HD foam. And we're going to connect them 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. The only thing that you're going to attach differently is on 2, you're not gluing the edge of your 6mm foam to number 1. You're gonna glue it on the face. Just within a 1/2 inch on the face, or even a 1/4 inch on the face, is what's going to be glued to the number 1 piece on the neck. Make sure you line up the centers so it's even, like so. Next, after you've got that only complex piece done on the neck, so with the 1 attached to 2 in that funky way to where it kind of looks seamless, you're then going to attach 2 to 3, and it should set kind of at a little overhang like that. It should glue to the face rather than on the edge, and everything should start lining up at the center so it, you know, is even at the end. Once you've got the neck built, then set that to the side and get your faceplate out. The faceplate is probably the easiest part on the helmet to attach. Once you've got your faceplate, you're going to attach it to the main structure of the helmet. The easiest thing I did for aligning is simply aligning the hinge piece to this gap right there, and not fully moving it over like all the way into this number 1 on the back piece. The hinge should just line up with this gap here. So once the faceplate is glued onto the helmet, I did tack the bottom of the little edge right there at the very front just to make sure it stayed in place. I just tacked it with some Bob Smith super glue. And then finally, we're moving on to the neck piece. Once again, we've been using barge contact cement for this entire build. The neck piece, super easy to attach. It's probably the easiest to attach out of everything. It's simply going to glue up onto where the faceplate hangs down. It's going to attach right up on the seam between the top and bottom piece of the faceplate, which I know I've got clips of it. And then you're simply going to attach it along the edge of the inside of the helmet where that triangle is. You're just going to attach it here, here, and then kind of where that triangle support piece is. With that, you've now got your base build of your Alva helmet done. Go ahead and make sure it fits. You should have probably measured out and made sure the helmet would fit to begin with. It fits my head, and I have a 24-inch head. We'll put it on the template. So now you've got your main structure done, and we're ready to move into the details. Now the details on this are probably the only easy part of this build, because they're essentially just rivets and banding. For the rivets, I haven't marked them on the template. The rivets should go, there should be 2 here on the top of the neck guard. There should be 4 here at the edge of the faceplate, 2 on either side of the seam, like so. Next, we've got rivets aligning the centerpiece. And all of my rivets I've cut out of 2mm HD foam. I have a whole drawer of rivets that I made with a little punch, but you can use googly eyes or anything else that's small and round. So you've got your rivets here on the neck, here on the center, on the faceplate, and then finally there are 2 on either side of the bill, right here and right here. You'll notice there are rivets on the in-game model on these 2 pieces, but again, we're not going to mess with those right now because we're going to attach them later once we've got the leather straps on. Once you've got your rivets on there, the final piece is this 2mm HD foam banding that is going to go on about a 1/2 inch inward on either the front and the forehead and the back piece. It's just going to be cut out and done like so. And I tacked that on with Bob Smith. Once you've got your rivets and banding on there, the details are essentially done, and we're going to move into the damage. Now, the damage I've done on this helmet is game accurate. If you don't want a game accurate Alva helmet, feel free to add damage as you see fit, but I wanted to make a 1-to-1 replica. I made sure I had the game on, and I sat in front of the TV and marked out where all the slashes were, all the dents, and I simply just went to dremeling. Now for the slashes, I'm gonna throw some shade at people. Do not use your knife to create the slashes. Don't go at it like you're a rabid cat. I can't stand that. It's just a little pet peeve. The way I did my slashes was I took a cutoff wheel on my Dremel and I just slightly dug in on all of the slashes. Once you've done all of your slashes to be as accurate or non-game accurate as you want, I then moved into the dents. And the dents are, you know, up here, like right there. And with the dents, I just used a conical stone bit. With that conical stone bit, you just kind of dig and then go in a light circle. But you're just gonna kind of dig in and go in a light circle until you create a kind of dented structure or a dented look. Finally, you'll notice that I added some pitting on this build. Now, I'm going to teach you something cool when we get into the painting section of this build, but for right now, if you want any deep pitting, you're going to take the very small blue, it's an engraving bit for your Dremel, and you're just going to kind of tap it in a little grouping wherever you want pitting. Is he yawning? Yeah, you're just going to take that small blue Dremel bit and tap it, and you're going to create some little pitting sections. Pitting is what happens over time to metal. If there's flaw, pitting can happen. If there's, you know, too much water, air, you know, whatever. It happens over time. Once you've done your damage and everything looks good, you're done. Now, one thing you'll see on mine is there's some silicone spots there. That is because I'm trying to achieve the look of a one piece. And what I mean by that is I applied silicone on the pieces where there was where it obviously looked like two pieces had been put together. I didn't want that. The back and the bill would be one piece if it were made out of real metal. So I just added I added a bead of silicone and smoothed it out there. So once it's painted, it's gonna convey the look of it being one piece. I also did the same on the faceplate right there. So it didn't look like two pieces, it's gonna look like one once it's painted. With all that said and done, you're done. Like, you've made the Alva helmet, and you're good to go. You're done. You should be proud. This is a very fun build to do. I cannot stress enough how much fun and how much I love this character. Like, it just brings me so much joy building this. That's why I've done it willingly several times. Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, leave a comment if you want to see some of your other favorite Dark Souls armors or whatever. I'll probably be building more. When you go to the website, check out all the other templates, check out all the other videos, check out all the other builds. What is that?
Mosquito.
Ew, gross. If you want to support us, leave a one-time donation on the website if you want. I've also got a Patreon, which is going to be having all of my videos uploaded 24 hours early. So you have 24-hour early access if you want to support us that way. Check out all of our social media where you can see what I'm doing daily. I do a lot of polls on Instagram. I'm very involved on Instagram, so if you want to get in touch with me directly, check out Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And we have an Etsy. If you want to go check out the Etsy, I'm selling like Estus flasks and whatever. They're 100% game accurate. Took me forever to model. But if you want an Estus flask, they're over there too. Am I forgetting anything? Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you did. See you around, guys. See you in the next video. Hey guys, before we go, I just wanted to mention real quick, if you like the builds that I do, I really encourage you to go over to my... Hello, hair. So I went into the other room to change and move on with my day. But then I remembered my good buddy Steve over at SKS Props. Really fantastic artist, amazing builder, a great friend of mine, and I really would encourage you, if you like my builds even a little bit, to go check out his most recent tutorial. By the time you see this, it's probably one of my all-time favorite builds that I've seen him do in recent memory. It's the Chainsaw Man helmet, and I encourage you to go check it out. There is either a thing here, or it's not in the budget, as Ryan will tell me, or it's in the description, which that's easy to do, so it's either here, there, or it's somewhere around there. But you should go check it out and give that build a try for yourselves if you're up to it. Thank you guys so... Son of a bitch.